Okay, we've finished filling the joints. We're going to go ahead and take off the static mixing nozzle. It cures up in about 60 seconds, so as long as you're flowing material through it every 60 seconds, you can use a nozzle for 100 gallons. However, once 60 seconds goes by, the nozzle is going to be toast, it's going to be hardened up. And that's another important point I need to make, is when you're filling, you've got to be careful to move from one joint to another joint and move product through the nozzle within 60 seconds. A big mistake that some installers make is they let the nozzle get hard and try to force the material out. What that's going to do is cause the pumps back up in the machine to blow a seal or have cross-contamination. So very, very important to never let your static mixing nozzle get cured up and try to force material through it. Now, if this is the end of the day and we're going to come back tomorrow, the smartest thing for us to do is to take the nozzle off, take a grease gun, stick it in the Zerks. Now this is the polyol side, the B side. I'm going to stick the grease gun, and if you watch the end of the manifold there, that's a little bit of B material coming out. Pretty soon, there's the grease right there. Okay? We want to pump product out until we see nothing but grease. I'm going to go to the A side, the ISO side, do the same thing. Here comes the ISO. There's the grease right there. That now seals the end of the hose system right here at the manifold, so no air gets back up inside. Then I go ahead and take our nightcap that we have not lost because it's on a chain, stick that nightcap back on the manifold and secure it with the retaining nut. You notice I put a little bit of grease around the threads. That just keeps everything from getting too tight. So now we've gone ahead and sealed this end of the system. On the other end with the tanks, good idea just to seal that off. Let's take a look up here at the tanks. We go ahead and take our ISO side and we fill it all the way to the top, and this is based on us coming back tomorrow and doing more work. Fill it all the way to the top, put a piece of plastic and secure the lid back on top of it. The tinted polyol side, we don't want to do that. We want to leave what's in there and then come back tomorrow, stir that up, stir up what's in the bucket, add that to it tomorrow when we're going to work some more on this job site. So it's only the A side, the ISO side, that we need to protect from the air, the moisture, because it can get crusty and hard when there's air, when it's exposed to air. So that's shutting it down at the end of the day, anticipating coming back tomorrow to finish the job. Now I'm going to show you how to save what's left in the tanks and put those back in our bucket so we haven't wasted any product. Very, very simple. I'm going to go ahead first and open up these valves. Remember, I'm not going to take off the nightcap here. Then I'm going to go ahead and turn on the machine and start pumping product out and make sure there's no contamination in these valves. That's the first thing. Then know what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring the valves over here to the corresponding buckets. Remember, A is ISO, B is polyol. I've redirected our valves back in here. I'm going to turn on the machine. You're going to see I'm going to pump the product back into the buckets. There's no need to take our hoses off. Everything is going through the manifolds here at the bottom, the valves at the bottom of the manifold. I'm going to go ahead and pump this till the tanks are empty. Okay, I've now pumped out all that I possibly can out of the machine. I'm going to go ahead and turn our valves off for a moment so I keep everything clean. And there will be no dripping from one side to the other. Okay, we've got a view now of our 3-gallon tanks. We've pumped all our product out. It's very important to make sure that we clean it properly, and the best cleaning fluid that we know of is xylene. So simply pour some xylene in the A side and the B side. Now I find it a good practice to go ahead while I've got this xylene in here to kind of use the xylene to clean the tanks. That keeps it nice and clean for the next project and possibly the next color that you have on the job. So while you've got the xylene here, go ahead and use it to clean the tanks. Especially the A side. The A side is what becomes crusty with air and moisture. So while you have it fresh and you have the xylene, good idea to use it to clean it up. Okay, we've got the xylene in there. Let's go back down to our purge bucket. Now we have xylene in the system. I'm going to open up our valves again and I'm going to purge the xylene out. I'm going to turn on our machine. You're going to see in a second xylene starting to come through. You still see a little bit of the color of the B side, the polyol side, and the iso side. I'll keep running this for about 20 seconds. Turn this off. Go ahead and turn off each valve. Now what I'm going to do is redirect each valve over their tank so that I circulate the xylene for 10 minutes. Okay, now I've got the tanks or the xylene through the hoses. I redirect each valve over the correct tank. Remember, the white tape is the iso, that's the iso. The B is the polyol. I've got the valves open. I'm going to go ahead and turn on our pump again. Our motor. Now what I'm doing is I'm taking the xylene through the pumps, cleaning it, through the hoses, through the manifold, and I'm going to recirculate this for 10 minutes. This is a very good process to make sure that everything is very, very clean. Okay, we have circulated the xylene through the whole system for 10 minutes. I'm going to turn off each valve so we don't drift. We're going to go back down to our purge bucket right here. I'm going to open up each valve and I'm going to get rid of what's left of the xylene in the tanks and in the hoses. Even though xylene's a good cleaning agent, it's not a good product to use as a storage within the system. I'm going to turn this off. One last thing that I am going to do, I'm going to go ahead and take our retaining nut off again, because inside this section of the manifold there's a little bit of polyurea that needs to be purged out. So by turning off the valves, turning it back on, I'm now cleaning it out at that end. I'm just going to keep flowing it till nothing comes out. Okay? Now we're done. All right. I'm going to turn this off for a moment. Now, the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to go look at our tanks again. Look inside. See how nice and clean they are. I'm going to take my rag and clean the last little bit of leftover material out of the tanks with the xylene. Really nice and clean. The guys on the next job are really going to love it. Okay, we've gone ahead and shot our xylene through this part of the manifold, so that's nice and clean. I've gone ahead, back up here, we've wiped out each tank. Now they're nice and clean. The last step that we have to do is to take and make sure no air gets down inside the system. So a very simple process is to use a motor oil. Any motor oil will work. It doesn't have to be a certain weight of motor oil. Anywhere 10 to 40 weight motor oil works great. Make sure you pour it on both sides. And what we're going to do is now go back to our purge bucket. Okay, we're going to turn on the pumps. Remember, we have oil in the system, so that oil sooner or later is going to start pushing out the xylene that's in the hoses. We're going to see nothing but oil coming through the system. It's perfect. So now the oil is come through. I'm going to go ahead and take our grease gun and I'm going to grease each side. Remember, we have our B side and our A side. Alright, we've gone ahead and shot our grease through here. We're going to go ahead and reinstall our nightcap. Remember, we put a little bit of grease on the threads to make it easy to thread on. Now we are completely done. We have shut down the machine at the end of the job. We've purged out the excess material. We've cleaned it out with xylene. We've purged out the xylene with the oil. We've greased our manifold. We put our nightcap on. We have a little bit of oil. Let's take a look at the tanks here. Take a look at the bottom of the tanks. We leave a little bit of oil at the bottom of the tank so no air gets inside. So the machine is shut down, ready to go. Come back in a week, 2 weeks, 3 months. Hopefully it's not that long before you have another job. I'm going to go ahead and show you. We got to put the lids back on. I'm going to put our retaining bar back on so the lids don't fly off as we drive down the road. And make sure that you close these little valves on the top. Now it's completely shut down, ready to go on the next job. One last thing, let's take a look down here at the battery. We provide a small little battery charger with the SB 2009 machine. This machine will run for 10 hours straight on one charge. However, it's very important to charge up the battery at night. If you think that you're going to run low, we put a cover on top of the battery. Make sure that you don't inadvertently short yourself. You need to pull that cover off, and before you charge this battery, you must disconnect the battery from the inverter. Very, very important. And then take your leads from your charger and connect them to the appropriate side, the positive and the negative. Turn on your charger, plug your charger into a wall. This has a system where it doesn't overcharge the battery. It'll shut off once the battery is fully charged. It won't burn it up. Then when you come back in the morning, secure the leads back on the battery and then reinstall your battery cover. That's it. Now it's ready to run on the next job.